Hi, and welcome to TalkRx with Dr. Neha. We are filming in Costa Rica, and I have a special guest today, Becca, who is a brave soul willing to ask her communication questions so that all of you can learn. So welcome, Becca.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We're so lucky to be here.
Yay. Yes, we are. It's amazing.
So what are you thinking about? What communication question are you thinking about?
My communication question centers around basically when I shut down or lose my voice. I feel when I'm confronted by somebody intimidating or coming at me with like anger or I tend to either shut down or get defensive. And my question is how to like stay in my power and speak my truth or speak compassionately like the way I normally do, or just not to lose my voice like completely. Like I completely shut down if I feel like if there's any kind of like anger or aggressiveness.
Okay, so you were doing this, and like as a gesture,
Yeah.
right? Tell me what that feels like in your body. What is that?
It feels like anxiety. Like I feel like this closes off and like the rest of me feels tense, anxious, and like scared. And so the words just don't come and I end up just feeling really small and everything just gets tight.
Okay.
Chest tight, throat tight. Yeah.
Okay, so this is where you speak from, right? I'm just going to throw this out. I don't know if any of this is related, but do you have any thyroid stuff going on as well? No. Okay, because sometimes that can be connected to your not being able to speak your truth. All right, so tell me what happens right before the shutdown happens. How do you know that someone's coming at you with aggressiveness or whatever it is? What's changing in your environment?
Body language.
Which is?
Like it feels like the other person's like frustrated or like huffy, like the huffy puffy kind of like getting annoyed.
Okay.
Or kind of faster movements and like like you can tell their body language is like frustrated where it's like they get tense.
Okay, so they're getting tense and maybe they're moving faster.
Yeah.
Picking up the pace, maybe the volume's going up.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going through that because I want you to know the signals right before this is going to happen.
Yeah.
Right? We got to take you know really clearly. You sound like you are well versed in the shutdown.
Yeah.
So the first place we want to go is to thank your body for that. Right? Because that's just protection.
Right.
Right? So thank goodness somewhere you learned that when something comes at me that I feel threatened by, your biological system now goes into safety. Right? And now what it sounds like is you've grown out of that being enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
So tell me how it protected you. Growing up, how did this protect you?
The shutting down. It protected me, but because I just stopped, I didn't cause any further hostility, anger, disruption. I just shut it down. So then it calmed down. Like everything would calm down. Yeah.
So you learned if I shut down inside, outside me calms down.
Yeah.
Right? Now, when you use the word power, right? So there's this way, would you say that in those moments you feel powerless?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So that sensation, I want you to just take a moment and just kind of tap into that sensation. You're protecting yourself, and now at the same time, you feel powerless.
Yeah.
Right? There was a time where it gave you power, protection, right? What changed?
I feel like usually when this happens, it's now the situations in which this happens, that it's happened in the last couple months, is usually the other person's getting huffy and aggressive and frustrated and angry, and it's directed at me, and it's basically what the communication from them ends up being is that I'm not communicating well, and then that makes me, or they manipulate what I said. They change what I said, and it has frustrated them, made them angry, and it's coming at me with like this forceful, fiery, threatening kind of like feeling. And so I shut down more and I feel more powerless because then I start going, oh, did I not communicate well enough before? And that's why they're angry.
Yep.
And I just feel lost.
Okay.
And I just can't, like, in those moments, it's like I want to stand up for myself because a lot of times what they're saying isn't actually true.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to stand up for myself without getting, if I stand up for myself in the way that I've done in the past, then it's immediately, oh, you're just being defensive. You're just being,
Yep.
And so it doesn't, I feel like it's this catch-22. So instead I've resulted in, I just get quiet and soft and stop talking.
Okay, now, are these close relationships to you? Because these types of interactions, yes. Because this sounds like family, this sounds like relationship, this sounds like our inner circle.
Yeah, it is.
Right? Because when you have that response and someone says, you're just getting defensive, right? That's family.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oftentimes.
Yeah.
Strangers don't usually do that, or acquaintances.
Right.
Right? All right. So the important thing here is these are relationships that at one point protection of you was enough. Mm-hmm. And now it sounds like you're growing into this place of where do I end and they begin as I emerge in my own voice and my own power.
Right.
Okay. So once you have gratitude for how it served you, and you now recognize the signals as they're happening before the shutdown happens, right? Turning up the volume, quicker pace, maybe swearing, sometimes that comes in, right? Whatever it is that triggers you, there's something called an amygdala hijack. That when you were young, and did somebody have a temper in your family?
My mom.
Yeah. Okay. Right. It's true. Right. Yeah. Like some people have I call it better access to their anger than others. Because one thing I know is growing up, I didn't have access to my anger. I was more like you. Right. And that protected me. And there came a time where I had to learn to access my anger because sometimes anger is good.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So in the face of your mother growing up, you were little and she was big.
Yeah.
Now you're about the same size.
Yeah.
Right? Except what typically would happen in that situation is when those same triggers start happening, all of a sudden you become little again and she becomes big.
Yeah.
Right? It's that experience of you, even though you're equals. And what you're saying is, I'm ready to be her equal.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So the first way you know is your body starts giving you those signals. They're usually physical signals. Yours is throat constriction. You also said you feel anxiety, heart racing.
In my chest. Yeah,
okay.
Heart racing for sure.
Okay, so heart racing and throat tightening.
Yeah.
Okay. So when that happens, okay, it's time for you to hit your pause button. Just like videos and music have, DVD players have pause buttons, so do we. That's the moment where when you notice it happening outside of you, to unhook from that thing I called an amygdala hijack from when you were little, it's like a little bit of a shock response that your body goes into to protect you because it recognizes something old. What it does is, what you're going to do is you will contract physically, right? Your heart racing, your throat. So you're going to expand through a few deep breaths, and whatever they're saying, you're just defensive, you this, you that, whatever it is, okay? What you say is, you repeat back what they said for two reasons. One is to make sure that you heard it correctly, because you sometimes might think you heard something that wasn't that.
Right.
So they feel heard because you're like, oh, so it sounds like I'm getting defensive. It sounds like, I think I'm coming across as defensive. Is that right? So that first you get to breathe and expand yourself instead of contract.
Yeah.
It gives a pause so that now you can unhook from that reactivity and move into responding. Okay? So the first thing is to repeat back what they said so you can have a breath. You can double check that they know they're heard, and you have a moment to respond.
Okay.
Okay? If you didn't think some of this was true, it wouldn't stick.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Okay. So there might be some defensiveness, there might be some reactivity,
Oh,
and you know
definitely.
what? You're shifting into a new way of being, and that's okay.
Yeah.
So in that space, okay, how do you want to show up with them?
I want to show up calm,
Okay.
in control of myself, and also with grace, but not backing down. Like, I feel like I often just back down to appease.
Okay. So how about this? Not controlled, calm's fine, but really what you said grace and controlled. You know what? You want to show up authentically.
Yeah.
And you know what? If you raise your voice a little bit, is that okay?
Yeah.
It's okay. Because you're learning a new way of being.
Yeah.
And if you do it a little messy, guess what? It's okay.
Yeah.
And so because this is family, maybe sitting down at a time when this isn't happening to say, hey, I have finally started to find my voice and I want to show up. There's a way that I haven't shown anger. There's a way that I've just shut down. Mm-hmm. I'm going to try this a new way. This is what I've learned, right? And what I'm wondering is, could I ask for grace from all of you as I try to grow into this new way of being?
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Instead of just hoping that you can suddenly be this controlled calm, right?
Right.
Not going to happen.
Right.
Because that's not human.
Right.
You're rewiring your neuronal system in your brain, your heart, the way you show up, and you're integrating this orchestra of a conversation. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a little messy first.
Yeah.
So maybe give yourself a little grace and allow yourself to be a little messy. But have that conversation with them first. Mm-hmm. So the first time you're having the conversation is not in the middle of it.
Right.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Was that helpful?
I love that.
So
thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'm going to ask you in a second for your takeaways.
Okay.
So for any of you at home, you know when you're with family that it can sometimes trigger you. And so I'm wondering, how do you show up when you get triggered? And sometimes do you shut down? Sometimes do you blow up? Whichever way you go, there's something to learn there if you want to stay connected to family. So tell me, any takeaways?
Definitely. I mean, the thing that struck home the most was just, I want to show up authentically. I want to show up myself in what, and how that, in a way that feels good, and it will feel good when it feels like me, And
yes.
So.
And it might be messy until you get there, until you really, it's kind of like getting comfortable in your skin.
And also just paying attention to the signs that happen in my body physically before, taking the pause, the breath, repeating back, just so I have that moment to kind of calm myself down.
Yep.
So that I don't become reactive.
Yeah. And curiosity is another key too. So when someone says you're defensive or whatever it is, just asking them. It sounds like I came across as defensive. That wasn't my intention. Mm-hmm. Help me understand. Was it my tone? Was it my body language? What was it? Because all of a sudden when you're curious, they're like, oh, it was this, it was that. And you get the specifics.
Right.
All right? So for all of you at home, I hope this was helpful. And as you learn, if there's times in your life when you feel powerless, as you learn to stand in your power, it might get a little messy, and that's okay. All right, so if you have any questions, if you'd like to ask your question, I'd be happy to answer it. Tweet me at #AskDrNeha, AskDoctorNeha. And thank you, Becca.
Thank you.